Okay, we are live for another space milestone. Welcome, everybody. My name is Wasim, the CEO of Metavisionaries, and I'm joined by our co hosts, my co founder and chairman of the Metavisionaries, Jim Green, and our partner from Health Gina, Dr. Huda Alfardus. Welcome, everybody, and we know why we're all here. Jim, you're in Cleveland. How's it going?
Well, we're going to have a little clouds, but not too bad. Sun's bright, and I'm ready for the eclipse.
Fantastic. So we're here for the US Eclipse, which will be which should be happening in the next hour. And we'll be discussing it today with Dr. Huda Alfardus. So, Dr. Huda, fire away.
Well, first let's start with what Jim is wearing. Like maybe you can tell us a little bit about what you're wearing and why, and what you're gonna do with it.
Well, this is a pair of specially made glasses. Actually, I like these the best because these are certified from NASA. This
Mm-hmm.
actually was from the 2017 eclipse, and I have here the ones that NASA has
Oh.
now issued for the 24 eclipse. There's also a variation of that, which is I like these two. This is another viewer that you just then put in front of your eyes and look at the sun. Now, why do we do that? Well, the sun's light is so intense that in
Mm-hmm.
a matter of seconds, it can really burn your retina. And so,
Mm-hmm.
and give you permanent eye damage. Now, this
Okay.
actually happened to Galileo. Okay, when he built his telescope and he looked at it, that was even worse. Because the telescope really concentrates that light. So, no telescopes, no phones. You use
Mm-hmm.
these protective eye shades and watch the moon then move in front of the sun. Now, if you're in an
Oh.
area like I am, I'm at a friend's house up here in Cleveland. I was invited several years ago to come up to Cleveland, which is right in the middle of totality, and observe the eclipse. Then these are the important thing to wear when the moon moves in front of the sun, and then when it's completely blocked and
Mm-hmm.
you're in the totality area, then you can
Mm-hmm.
put these down and observe the fantastic upper atmosphere of the sun called the corona, the lower atmosphere of the sun called the chromosphere, because then the moon is blocked off the whole surface. Now, that'll
Mm-hmm.
last, depending on where you are in the eclipse zone, several minutes. Now, this is
Mm-hmm.
really, really exciting because the sun will be your focus. But I also want to mention that you don't want it to be your only focus. And the reason why is what happens when the sun is blocked by the moon, it's like night. Everything gets dark. Birds stop chirping. The wind blows in. It gives you an eerie feeling where the hairs on the back of your neck stick up. I mean, it's really exciting. And so you want to sit back and enjoy that. It's an
Mm-hmm.
experience that only eclipse hunters really understand and enjoy. But there are
Mm-hmm.
other things to see when
Mm-hmm.
you look at the beautiful upper atmosphere of the sun called the corona. You're going to find it being very extensive. I think we'll see the corona much bigger than in terms of size than just the angular size of the sun. It will
Yeah.
extend very far into space. And the reason why it is solar maximum in July, which means it has more sunspots, it has a whole bunch of activity going on, and that means the corona is very extensive. Then,
Mm-hmm.
if you're really sharp, you can start seeing the rest of the sky around the blacked out sun. And what would you see? Well, you'll see Saturn, you'll see Mars, you'll see, if you really look closely, Venus and Mercury, and also Jupiter and the new devil comet that's out there. So these are all these things that are going to pop out of the sky when we block the light of the sun. It'll be fantastic for those that are in the totality region to see the sun in a new and unique way.
Amazing. So I guess there are a lot of other discoveries that could be made, scientific discoveries and new things to reveal. So give us some examples of what could we learn from such a phenomenon.
Well, we've been learning stuff during eclipses, for 150 or more years. In
Mm,
fact, 150 years ago, in
mm,
1869, an eclipse went through my hometown called Burlington, Iowa. Okay.
mhm,
And scientists from all over the place came and set up telescopes and looked at the sun. And a brand new tool was made at this time. It's called a spectrograph. It's the ability to take the sun's light and break it up into colors,
mm,
and those we call wavelengths of visible light, and then look at those colors, see the variation of the colors. In fact, we know how to do that today when we take a prism and break up the sunlight. But now this was their first opportunity to really take a good look at the sun, and they see a
mhm,
fantastic set of lines. These are dark lines in the atmosphere of the sun, and that tells us what elements are in the atmosphere of the sun. Now, there was a bunch of things they learned from that. One, they learned that there's iron in the
mm,
atmosphere of the sun. Now, iron, how did the iron get there? Well, that's
mm,
all part of our collapsing cloud that creates the earth and the sun. And it's a fantastic element that's made in other suns
mhm,
that
mhm,
then gets blown out and then absorbed and be part of making new things like new stars in our solar system. In
mhm,
addition to that, helium was discovered during an eclipse. Okay.
mm,
And that was done the year before in 1868. And I believe it was by a Russian astronomer who was also using a spectrograph, saw some unusual lines, and then named them helium. So finding new elements, the sun really helped us do that, because then, now that we know
mm,
there's helium out there, we then could look here in our own atmosphere to find helium. And that's really hard to do, but we have found some helium. In
mm.
fact, we use helium now to inflate balloons, like in the Macy's
Yeah.
parade. But it was
Mm,
really discovered in the atmosphere of the sun more than
mm.
150 years ago.
Amazing. So, what about other types of research? Social research, for example, animal behavior, understanding what they do in a situation of total darkness after the bright sunlight disappears.
Well, we're not completely sure about all types of animals. In fact, I just saw that NASA announced, hey, those people that are near zoos or out in the woods or observing birds, let us know what you see in terms of the animal interactions, the animal changes. Now, as I mentioned, I have seen a total eclipse before. I saw the 2017 total
Mm,
eclipse using my 2017 glasses, and I was in
mhm,
Idaho during that time period, and the birds just stopped. I mean, it was
mhm.
like, what happened? It was so noticeable. It's like the birds figured out, well, it's time to go to sleep, and then of course
Interesting.
when the sunlight started coming back, you started hearing the birds chirp just like you do in the morning. But
Wow.
other things, other animals are going to perhaps act differently too. We'll
Mhm.
find out. This is kind of interesting, and I hope the public gets engaged in that way and tells NASA what's happening, because NASA's asked for that info.
Yes, yes, exactly. These are some ways that the public might actively participate and I guess contribute to the eclipse research and observation efforts. And you mentioned the last one that happened with the same sort of like total solar eclipse occasion was 2017. So why does it? Do you have an explanation for why does it happen like that far like in between the years when it keeps occurring?
Well, it keeps occurring. Uh, every time the moon goes around once a month,
Hmm.
its shadow will be projected somewhere. Now, sometimes it happens in the United States. but it happens really all over the world, and many different countries have opportunities to find and follow solar eclipses. Now, I
Mhm.
noticed in the upcoming charts of solar eclipses that there'll be a total solar eclipse in Riyadh. Okay,
Really? I was
so
just about to ask you, when is, like, when is it the time for us to see the same phenomenon?
well, it's coming, and in fact,
Okay.
I'm going to be flying into Riyadh, and I'm going to
Yes, please
go out in
do.
the desert with my friends in Saudi Arabia, and we're going to have a great time looking at the solar eclipse in Saudi Arabia.
Amazing. Yeah, do bring me one of those glasses that you've just shown me.
Oh, I'll
Perfect
bring a
idea.
bunch. I'll bring a bunch. I'll hand them out
Good.
like candy.
Perfect. Okay, so it is like a fun thing to be watching, but I guess there
It
are
is.
some misconceptions and myths around the solar eclipses that frequently come.
Yes. Oh, we lost her. Okay, but I did get the question. The question is,
Mhm.
what about some of the myths? So, one of the myths that I actually already mentioned a little bit, one myth is it must be okay to look at the sun, and that's wrong. It's not okay to look at the sun. Please. Okay, so we're talking about myths now. One of the
Mhm,
myths is you never want to look at the sun. Some people have said, "Oh, it's okay to look at the sun. You can look at the
mm,
sun," but don't do that. Really, don't do that.
mm,
It's your eyes are so precious that you really don't want to damage them in any way. And the
mm,
sun's light is so intense that it can easily do that. So I
mhm,
would not mess with that. That
mhm.
means even sunglasses. You may think, "Oh, I have a really great pair of
Right. Yeah,
sunglasses.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
very dark." No,
Mhm,
no, don't do that. Don't do that.
mm,
You really want to use these approved solar glasses. Now, what this is, it's a photographic film that has a lot of silver on it, and it's not been wiped off in an image in a film that appears using this concept uh, for photography. But instead, these are specially made to maintain the silver on this film coating that allows you
mm.
then to really get a good look at what's going on. So those myths are, no sunglasses, no looking. Get yourself a pair of glasses. Now, let's say you don't have a pair, but you see people that are near you.
Mm,
Please go see them. Please go and say, "May I borrow them?" and look and see
mm.
then, the moon moving in front of the sun. Now, this
And they could be ordered online, I guess. So if people are
you
interested to do it, they can
order
just
them
get their own
online, but
pair.
you're not going to get them as fast as you're going to need them. I don't care how fast
Yeah.
Amazon is; it ain't going to make it for this one. But you can receive. You
No,
can
no, the
receive.
Riyadh one. I mean, people can prepare from
Oh
now.
yeah. Oh yeah, we
Yeah,
can we can do the Riyadh one. Yes, we can prepare for that one. You bet.
yeah,
2027 Riyadh. Okay. So
perfect.
another science phenomena that's
Mm,
associated with the eclipses that I really want to talk about is when other things move in front of the sun. Okay.
mhm,
Well, what? Well, you have
mhm,
planets. We have planets like Mercury going around the sun,
mhm,
and that's closer to the sun than we are. Therefore, there comes a
mhm.
time when Mercury will move in front of the sun, and we can see it.
Oh,
Of
okay.
course, we use special equipment. Also, Venus. When Venus, which is closer to the sun than the Earth is, when Venus moves in front of the sun, then we can see it. Now, we don't
Mm,
call those eclipses, we
mhm,
call them transits. But it's the same basic phenomena where the object will move in front of a brighter object like the sun, blocking out some of the light. Now, the reason why I mention this is many, many years ago, we did not understand what was happening in other planets. Okay, so in 1760 or so, there was a
mm,
Venus transit. And during this
mm,
Venus transit, we actually had an opportunity to use a telescope and look at Venus in the right way. And we saw it had an atmosphere. So this is
Mm.
a fantastic concept of how planets can move in front of these bright objects like the sun, and we can
Mhm.
see a little annulus around the planet that's reflecting the light of the sun, and that turns out to be the atmosphere. So the atmosphere of Venus was discovered
Mm.
during an eclipse, or rather a transit of Venus
Okay.
crossing the surface of the sun from our.
Amazing. So a lot of interesting discoveries and very important ones as well actually could be made during this time. So I guess there are a lot of young people that want to get into the field of space and scientists that want to apply their knowledge in this field. What advice do you have for aspiring scientists and young people to get into this?
Well, I hope the eclipse gives you a natural wonder of nature. Science is really the discovery of the nature of things, how things work, you know?
Mm.
How does the sun shine? How does the earth move around the sun? How does the atmosphere move around this planet? So all those things are really important to understand because we need to understand what happens when the Earth moves around the sun, whether we're going to get hit by a near Earth object, whether
Mm.
a solar flare takes off and disrupts our communication here on Earth. What happens to our climate over time? We talk a lot about climate change. Well, what is that all about? Well, these things need to be discovered. These things need to be to really studied so that we can understand these changes. And so that's all about science. That's all
Mm.
about learning new things about the nature of objects.
Mhm. Amazing. So, if somebody wants to get into this field, I guess they can start with reading up about what they could learn. Maybe attend some educational courses and start to learn more about the space field because it's full of wonders.
Indeed. In fact, Wasim and I and the Metavisionaries and our team have put together a summer course in the metaverse. So
Hmm.
many kids that use three-dimensional systems, 3D systems, virtual reality that play games could actually join us in an orbiting spacecraft learning about space, and we can beam down to the moon and walk around, and we can beam down to Mars and walk around and talk about what we see. So there is a whole series of new ways to really begin the process of understanding the nature of things, particularly in the area of space. And that's our Metavisionary Academy.
That's amazing. Yes, and I guess like there are a lot of other courses for all the group of people as well that coming up this summer as well in the UK. So maybe Yasim could talk a little bit about these.
Yeah, sure. Just a quick question. Is it true that solar waves affect electrical devices here on Earth, from Mohammed?
It sure can, but that only happens during really extreme solar weather. Okay. So when the sunspots become very active and they affect the corona, and huge magnetic fields arise, and then pieces of the sun get captured in the atmosphere of these magnetic bubbles, and they pop off, and then those bubbles travel to Earth, hit the Earth's magnetosphere, causing aurora, and then the aurora produces currents in our atmosphere. Those currents can affect many electrical things. In the past, some of these big geomagnetic storms have affected even power grids, and so we have a whole field called space weather. So once again, scientists wanted to study the nature of things. And they wanted to study the nature of how the energy from the sun can affect our electrical equipment here on Earth. And we call that field space weather.
Amazing. Actually, on that question, the back of this question, there is also another effect that we can see for radio waves. And I think there is a challenge that's happening now with all the different radio stations in the US to try and communicate and see the type of signals that come. I don't know if you're part of that as well. Jim?
No, I'm not. But radio waves in particular are extremely important. NASA uses radio waves to communicate with satellites.
Mm,
So why satellites have big dishes, because they can beam their information back to Earth. That's why direct TV uses smaller dishes, because they're communicating with satellites that are orbiting the Earth at an orbit called geosynchronous. And that means
mhm,
they are always overhead. They're at an orbit that takes 24 hours to go around the Earth, and therefore they're always over your position and can beam you information. And that information can be everything from, telecommunications or internet, but mostly TV signals. Direct TV
mm,
uses that concept to
mm,
broadcast to people on Earth, huge amounts of data, and that comes in images and sound, and we call that TV in my era.
mhm. Amazing.
So guys, this has been a fantastic discussion. It's exciting, and as we've talked about, I mean, these are some of the things that really inspire and help us build capability and capacity once we realize how much impact science has on what we do, and space being a fundamental part of that in terms of application on the Earth itself. And Huda, as you mentioned, and as Jim mentioned, we have a Meta Academy that will be operating in the summer, and of course, we have our Health on Earth and Space course, including AI driven pioneering solutions. Now, this is going to be held both in person and online. So, even if you can't physically make it to Oxford, where the course is going to be run by the Endomes Department at the Botner Research Institute of the University of Oxford. So, for those of you who want to attend, feel free. The link's been posted. And there you go. You can see it on Dr. Huda's profile, and it's going to cover three very important topics. First of all, generative AI, its use in our daily applications, as well as how it can assist you in payload design. Then we'll also be looking at the payload design with our partners from Space Applications. And then ultimately, we'll also be looking at a experiment that will be going to space being run by the university, and looking at, for example, also how genomics and personalized medicine plays a role. But if you're an
Mhm,
engineer, if you're a lawyer, all of you have a role to play. This program will be for everybody because you're going to need a multidisciplinary team. Jim, why should engineers and why should those professions not related to health also think what their role is when it comes to building something like a payload and how it all integrates together?
Well, indeed, you touched on the topic, and that is really constructing a new instrument. Scientists, as I said, love the idea of finding out the nature of things. And engineers play a really critical role by making the instruments that provide us the data that allows us to answer questions about how things work and how things they behave in under different circumstances. So engineers play a really critical role. But as you point out, so do people that are in space policy and law, like who
mhm,
owns the moon. We have so many spacecraft going to the moon these days, some of which are grabbing samples and bringing those samples back. Others are thinking about going there and mining the moon. The moon has some fantastic material, things like platinum group metals. Now, platinum group metals are in all our electronics. And the reason, of course, is they conduct electricity and they don't rust. And so
mhm,
that makes them really valuable. But there's only a certain amount of platinum group metals here on Earth. There's plenty of
mhm,
platinum group metals in other locations, and the moon is one place I would go to get some platinum group metals. But if you do that, if you actually mine the moon, who owns that material? So these are really important questions that are coming up that we need answers to. And so
mhm,
we need to study how important space is. Space is incredibly important for us to be able to manage the resources at Earth. We know about climate change from space. We discovered climate change from space. We monitor climate change from space. We monitor Earth resources from space. These are fundamental things that we use space now. What's the next step? Well, the next step is we need to learn more about our solar system. We need to learn more about how the sun moves around the galaxy and what are the problems our whole entire solar system is going to run into as we orbit the center of the galaxy. So there's so many
And
things in these areas that are just really exciting to learn about.
yeah, and I was just going to add for this particular round of the course, Helgina is actually coming on as a partner looking at entrepreneurship. So, again, in the field of entrepreneurship, you need everybody. You need
Yep.
engineers, you need scientists,
Yep.
you need lawyers, you need all different expertise to actually put together an innovative idea and launch it to market. And in this course as well, we try to integrate all the space knowledge into something practical that you could come out with and apply what you have into a new field.
Well, you know what we're going to do just before we end this? We're going to get your advice, Dr. Huda, on something me and Jim have been working on. So, what I'm going to do is two things. One, I'm going to play you a bit of voice stuff we've been working on and just like your opinion on what you think. And then we're
Okay.
going to show you something we've doing with custom GPT. So, for those of you watching who want to learn how we put this together, this will be some of the stuff that we'll be doing. Now, please tell me if this is clear. So you've heard Jim speak. This is another version of Jim speaking in English.
Let's translate this for you all. It really has been a phenomenal year with Wasim and the team, building on the foundations we built this year to get us to this wonderful
It's
place.
weird to hear your own voice, Jim, isn't it? Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Now we need, yeah, okay. So then
Hani,
that's Jim.
That's it. Now we're going to translate that. We'd love all
Well,
you.
what you should know is I never said this. I
Yes, that
never
was
said what was
right.
heard.
Oh,
Jim,
so that
right?
first, okay.
Yeah, Jim. So this is we're going to be teaching some of these skills on why we're doing this. Now, I'd love for your opinion on this.
يا جماعة فعلا كانت سنة رائعة مع وسيم، استكشفنا أشياء كثيرة ووصلنا لهذا المكان الرائع، وإن شاء الله الأيام الجاية بتكون أحلى وإحنا ندخل السنة الجديدة. وإيهاب، تارا، هاني، أحمد، ريتشارد وهالدا، إحنا بس نتقدم من هنا. أتمنى لكم كلكم سنة جديدة مليئة بالسعادة والنجاح.
So
Okay,
how,
that's
Yeah,
so
I never said that either. I don't, the
yeah, right.
only other language
That,
I know is Fortran and C++. I don't know Arabic, so it's amazing some of the things that are currently happening.
well, it is. So you didn't say the English one, you didn't say the Arabic one, and yet it's like yourself. It's amazing. Yeah. So that's the sort of technology that would be used during the course then.
Yeah.
correct?
Yep.
And we're going to be using me and Jim. We'll be working on developing our own custom GPTs, feeding it our own information. So let me play you one more thing and tell me what you think. Now, I think, Jim, this really describes what we're doing with the Metavisionaries better than me sometimes. So I'll play this for you guys. Hi, I'd like you to describe to everybody who's listening, what are we doing with the Metavisionaries and what are our long-term goals and why it's important in looking at doing this approach for the next decade. I was thinking.
Sure, I'd be happy to share.
All right.
Our long-term goal, set for the horizon of 2030, is to be at the forefront of space and frontier technology education, collaboration, and incubation worldwide. This involves creating a unique ecosystem that combines physical labs and assets in space with a metaverse infrastructure. Our vision is to inspire and enable leaders of today and tomorrow to invest their knowledge, creativity, and resources in tackling the biggest challenges facing our species, such as climate change, energy access, and global health. Why is this approach important for the next decade? Well, we are at a critical juncture where the decisions and advancements we make can significantly impact the future of our planet and beyond. Space, often seen as the final frontier, holds the keys to understanding and solving many of Earth's pressing issues.
There you go.
It's pretty amazing.
Right. And we're going to be, when people come and think about how they do their payload design, Mohammed, you were part of the course that we recently delivered in Jeddah. So welcome. And we use this technology. So, I mean, we're looking forward to you all joining. The links on there. As I said, please do. As I said, even if you physically can't attend, you're able to join online, and then we'll have the Meta Academy sessions running. So, with that, I'd love to thank you, Dr. Huda and Jim. Jim, you've only got 25 minutes.
Yeah, I better get out there. I'm getting ready to go.
Good.
We are
Good.
looking forward to actually hearing what happens after you do it. So we'll
Well,
have another call afterward.
all right, good. I have some clouds coming in, so I'm a little worried, but
Yeah,
the sun's very bright. We'll see something.
Well, thank you
amazing.
so much. This was another space milestone hosted with Dr. Huda Alfardus, and they're going to be regularly doing a regular session talking about frontier technologies, space, and AI. So, for those of you watching, keep a watch out for that. Jim, have a great eclipse. Dr. Huda, thank you so much. And we look forward to all of you in July. And of course, for those of you watching, we've got a special live webinar happening this Thursday. So if you haven't signed up, we'll follow the link in the comments. Make sure you do. Have a wonderful evening. We'll catch you all soon.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.